Welcome to Deep Thought. Sometimes people focus on irrelevant things. And especially people do this when something else is at hand, but they might focus on something else. I'll give you a great example right now. How many people focusing on the title of this podcast or video? I get them confused at this point. And focusing on that when I'm talking about what I'm getting into. Or you're like, why you got those two comic books back there? Now, sometimes it could be relevant, but it's ultimately irrelevant. They're just there. They're just random and stuff. But then some people would just focus on them totally. Like, oh, let me zoom in. Oh, class war. Black. What's all that about? And what that got to do with this? Well, I told you, but what if it was totally irrelevant? What if I just randomly put those books back there? Instead of focusing on a message, which could be very good, give you something. And a lot of people do that. Like in, if you going through life, it's better to focus on the issue at hand when it's an issue. Now, we always going to see an irrelevant thing, and it might not have to do with anything. And if we focus on it because we don't have anything else, that's not an issue, because it's going to happen. Stuff crosses our path, and it might be important, might not, but it's not important maybe to the issue at hand. But the thing is, we still focus on it. It's like, what that got to do with anything? Like on many of these YouTube videos, I've noticed this on plenty of content creators. You get someone in the comments and they're talking about something that has nothing to do with the issue at hand. Nothing to do with it. Nothing. It could be something small. It could be somebody wearing a suit or something, and they're more concerned with the handkerchief in the suit not matching the tie the exact color, even though the designs are generally the same, but the exact color. And I'm like, okay, what that got to do with the message? That's the point. You focus on the small thing. It's irrelevant. It's not relative to this conversation. Now, yes, you pay attention, but you don't focus. Because it could be. Because I said that before about focusing, pay attention to small things. You pay attention to it, but you don't focus. What I mean is, okay, like the thing about the pocket square not matching the necktie on someone. Okay, does that have to do with the message? The message might not have to do with any of that. That's just something that they wore. The message might be telling you how to be successful in an endeavor. That's the important thing, And indeed, sometimes people will focus on such the tiny things, they will ignore or give themselves a reason to ignore the main message. But the main message would actually help them. But it was like, okay, ultimately, what does that have to do with anything? What does that small thing? It's irrelevant. It's not relative to the overall thing. Could be just the camera angle and the lighting. Why are you worried about that? Or people worried about some small thing, Like, let me use an example, because, I like giving examples because I lived through it. I remember it got back to me when I was living in my other place. And it was actually a good sized apartment. But you had some people, they like, oh, I go listen to him, he lives there. Or I go listen to him, he drives that type of car. What that got to do with anything? If I'm talking about relationships. I mean, seriously, it was like, well, what that got to do with it? Now I can see if I'm doing a video talking about how to buy a large mansion. And this is what you do, but then I'm telling you to do that from a small apartment. And I'm saying, yeah, this is what you do to buy a mansion. You go through this and that. It's like, okay, but it's relevant that I'm not sitting in one. But then, which in my videos do I say get a large mansion? That's the thing. You focus on the smaller things, or hypothetically focus on the smaller thing, and it's like, it don't have anything to do with this. It don't have to do with the issue, Or sometimes I remember on my Patreon, someone was talking about, somebody was getting into it and they were being troublesome. I ended up blocking them, but they talking about some rare type of shark. It's like, hey, I bet you don't know, and the shark does this. It was like, that has no relevance to what I do. That has no relevance to anything I do. It's a animal that I've never heard before and will probably never encounter in my life. But they were more focused on that, you know? But of course, because they were speaking on it, it was important to them, but it wasn't important to me, you know? And see, the thing is, people will get so hung up on the irrelevant things. They miss solving the issue at hand, or maybe learning something, or they get so caught up in that they come to an inaccurate conclusion because it shapes their perception. You like how you see how I'm bringing all this together, you know? And you know, the thing is, by focusing on the irrelevant thing, the main thing is you missing the issue, you missing solving the problem, you missing the information you can get because you worried about something that has nothing to do with it. Now, in most cases, you know, I don't randomly put anything up in most cases. But actually, I put this up, and it's actually part of the whole thing, but what if it wasn't? What if I just sat in front of here and they would just happen to be up? And it didn't mean anything. It was just like, oh, I kind of like the covers and stuff, so I'm going to put it up so I can look at it. You know, it's like, you know, is it relevant to whatever I'm talking about on that particular day? You know? I want y'all to think about that. See, a lot of times people, once again, and I'll be talking about being distracted on my Sunday simulcast. But people get so caught up and then they can't do the things they need to do because they worried about something that don't have anything to do with anything. You know? Seriously. Or somebody's worried about, like, I give you another example. Somebody worried about some shirt I'm wearing. I'm like, the message ain't the shirt. You know? It's a random shirt I like. Why you worried about it? But you get people on that thing, you know? It's not that deep. Sometimes everything ain't that deep. Or one of the things I've seen is people will focus on something because maybe the message they need to hear, they don't want to hear it deep down because it's making them face something. But then there's a part, if they still there listening to the message, there's something in them that needs that message. But they still not going to get it if they focus on the irrelevant things. Like I say, the irrelevant things always going to cross our path. That's just nature. But focusing too much on them can be a problem. So, anyway, I want y'all to really think about that. And these are two very good comics and stuff. Too good just incident, because I know somebody's still going to care. You know, Class War is about some government-created superheroes and stuff who... yeah, kind of rebelled. Interesting. Kind of, I'll say dark side. And then Black. That's an interesting series. It's about a world where the only people that have superpowers happen to be black. So, that's interesting. But it's really not relevant to this conversation. This is something separate. So anyway, though, I shared that because I know somebody still want to ask. But anyway, that's all I have for today. I'll get back with you. Oh, and remember, on this channel, it's all about getting you to think. Anyway, I'll get back with y'all. Peace and blessings.